Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam. So, I'm here today in front of you to serve all of you with Krishna Katha on the topic of Rukmini Krishna Vivaha. Right. So, firstly, I would like to, wish all of you a very happy Krishna conscious Janmashtami. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the organizers of this Harikatha for considering me worthy of being of some service to all of you and for giving me this opportunity to purify myself by speaking about the glories of God and His pure devotees. So actually, in Kali Yuga, right, the Shastras say that in Kali Yuga, everybody is suffering. There is nobody who is not suffering. Suffering is an innate quality of this material world, but that quality becomes million times more magnified when it is Kali Yuga. Right? Kali Yuga and material world is a deadly combination for suffering. Right? And the Shastras repeatedly say this. But then there is one place in the Skanda Puran which says that even within the material world and in Kali Yuga, there are certain people who are not at all affected by the Kali Yuga and are not suffering. Instead, they are rejoicing as if they are in Krishna Loka, in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual world. And who are these people? अहो अहो वीर्न कलेर्विधूयते सुधा सुधारा मधुरं पदे पदे दिने दिने चन्दन चन्द्रशीतलं यशो यशोदातनयस्य गीयते. So these people are Aho Ahobir. Oh, behold, please hear. Na Kaler Viduyate. There are people who are not at all affected by Kali Yuga. Who are such people? And what are they experiencing in this material world? Sudha Sudhara, rivers, torrential rivers of nectar, and Maduram Pade Pade. Are they experiencing it once in a year or once in a lifetime? No, pade pade, at every step that they are taking, they are experiencing unimaginable amount of nectar and sweetness in their life. And what else? Dine dine chandana chandra sheetalam. This material world, samsara dava nalalida loka. It's considered to be a forest fire, right? Where we are constantly troubled by all the desires and anarthas and everything. But then these people, these section of people, they are Chandana Chandra Sheetalam. They are experiencing the cool of the moon on a full moon day, the soothing rays of the moon when it hits you, right? And when your body is, covered with sandalwood pulp, chandana, right? And when you get that sheetalam, that coolness, right? So that much comfort and that much coolness are being experienced by these people. And who are these people who are not at all affected by Kali Yuga, who are experiencing a lot of nectar and who are very, very comfortable in this material world? Such people are Yasho Yashoda Tanayasya Giyate, those people who are hearing the Yasha, the glories of Yashoda Tanaya, the son of Yashoda. Those people who are discussing, who are hearing Harikatha, the glories of Yashoda's son, Sri Krishna, right? Such people are always comfortable even in this material world, right? But our Vaishnava Acharyas say that it is a matter of great astonishment for them that Ascharyam hi etat manushya sudham parityajya visham pibanti, that it's so ascharyam, it is so bewildering that giving up the sudha, giving up the nectar, we are running behind visham pibanti, to drink the poison of this material world. Right? Even today, you can see more than the temples when the lockdown reopened, right, a few months back, more than the temples, you could see long queues outside bars and liquor stores so that people can drink the poisonous liquor, right? So, Sudham Parityajya Visham Pibanti. It is our quality of Kali Yuga Vasis to give up nectar and drink poison and strive for that poison, right? And this is very bewildering for our Vaishnava Acharyas. But then, as we discussed, the only source of pleasure and happiness and comfort for all living entities in this material world is to hear the glorious pastimes of Sri Krishna. And one such pastime from Srimad Bhagavatam, which strongly emphasizes on the principle of hearing, of Shravanam, was the life and pastime of Srimati Rukmini Devi. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, talks about the Leelas or the pastimes of the Lord, and specifically 10th canto, chapter 52, 53, 54, talks in great detail about the Rukmini Krishna Vivaha, how Lord Krishna came and kidnapped Mother Rukmini in the Rakshasa style and took her away back to his kingdom in Dwaraka and married her. Right? So the verse that we are going to discuss today from Srimad Bhagavatam is a very special verse. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 52nd shloka, and 37th verse. So, unfortunately, I'm not able to get it up on my screen right now. But if all of you have access to this shloka, I would request all of you to please refer to it. Right. So, I will chant the shloka once and chant the translation and the purport, and then we'll go ahead with discussing the shloka. Right. So Shri Rukmini Uvacha Shrutva Gunan Bhuvana Sundara Shunvatam Te Nirvishya Karna Vivarai Haratonga Tapam Rupam Drisham Drishitam Akilartha Labham Tvayachyuta Vishati Chittamapatrapam Me. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So, translation Sri Rukmini said in her letter, as read by the Brahmana, O beauty of the worlds, having heard your qualities which enter the ears of those who hear and remove their bodily distress, and having also heard of your beauty, which fulfills all the visual desires of those who see, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you, O Krishna. So the purport, Rukmini was a king's daughter, courageous and bold, and furthermore, she would rather die than lose Krishna. Considering all this, she wrote a frank, explicit letter begging Krishna to come and take her away. Right? So yeah, I'm just checking the time. Okay, so we are. Uh, let's get started with discussing this beautiful shloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.52.37. So why is this shloka very important? Because this shloka is the first of the seven prayers, seven verses that Rukmini Devi offered to Sri Krishna in the form of her love letter, the transcendental love letter, right? And that prayer starts with this shloka. Those seven verses starts with this shloka, right? So before we get to why Rukmini Devi wrote a letter to Sri Krishna, let's understand this pastime. What is the context? What is the background? Right. So, in the kingdom called Vidarbha, Vidarbha kingdom was being ruled by King Bhishmaka, right? And this king, he was quite a pious king, right? He was not envious of God, but then he had five sons, right? And he had one daughter who was Rukmini Devi, Mother Rukmini. And out of these five sons, Rukmi was the firstborn son. The eldest was Rukmi. And then there was Rukmartha, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesha, and Rukmamali. These were the other children of Maharaj Bhishmaka. And then, as we know, in the end, was the exalted Rukmini Devi, who was the sister to all these five brothers. Right? And Rukmini is not an ordinary lady. Right? She is the goddess of fortune. She is expansion of Srimati Radharani. But very sweetly, out of her own sweet will, in this pastime, she agrees to play the role of all of us, of a conditioned soul who is eternally in love with Sri Krishna. Right? So, in this setup, in the kingdom of Bhishmaka, with five sons and one daughter, Rukmini Devi, as it was customary in olden times, always to the kings, to the Kshatriyas, right? The Brahmanas used to come, the saints used to come. They used to visit the kingdom and they used to speak about the glories of the Lord, right? So when these saintly people visited the kingdom of Vidarbha, right, and they used to chant and discuss the glories of the Lord, then Rukmini Devi heard about these descriptions of God, these descriptions of Krishna. Right? She got information about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? And Brahman Krishna Katha Punya. By hearing about Krishna Katha from the Brahmanas, simply by hearing about the beautiful form of the Lord, about the opulences, about the qualities of the Lord, right? About the compassion of the Lord, hearing about all of these things, Rukmini Devi, I won't say fell in love. She rose in love. She rose in love and she completely gave her heart to Sri Krishna. And she dedicated her entire life to Krishna. And she had this burning desire to eternally serve Sri Krishna by being his wife. Right? And she developed this desire simply by hearing from the Brahmanas. Now, this is a very important learning for all of us, right? Why? Because many people ask this question in this world that after all the scientific advancement, right, why is there still no scientific evidence of God? Right? Man has started going into space, that too not for exploration, for tourism. Richard Branson went in his Virgin Galactic recently, right? Jeff Bezos went in his Blue Origin rocket, right? So people have started going into space for tourism, for fun. When technology has advanced so much, why is there not even one evidence about God, right? And if we cannot see God, how can we serve Him, right? So for this, we must understand through this analogy. If you see a sugarcane, right? If you see that sugarcane stick, can you see sugar cubes inside that sugarcane stick? We cannot. But then when you process that sugarcane in a factory and from that sugarcane the sugar cubes come out, then you can see sugar, right? So it is not that sugar was not there inside that sugarcane, but there was a process that had to be followed from which we can see sugar cubes inside sugarcane. Similarly, if you take mustard seeds, can we see oil in mustard seeds? We cannot directly. But when it goes through a process, you can see the mustard oil coming from those seeds. Similarly, milk, we cannot see curd in milk, right? But when it goes through a process of churning, then we see curd and butter and ghee inside that milk, right? So the point is, although just because we cannot see something does not mean it is not there. It only means that there is a specific process that we need to follow for us to be able to see it, right? And this process also, it is not any random process. A process in one field will not apply to the process in another field. And what I mean is, if you take the subjects of science, physics, chemistry, and maths, right? In physics, let's say you take a pendulum, right? You have a pendulum. Now a pendulum is used to measure frequency, it is used to measure time, right? But if you use a pendulum to know the chemical composition of a chemical, you might spend lifetimes together, you might spend years together, you will still not understand the chemical composition of a chemical by using a pendulum, right? It is only meant to know the time and frequency. Similarly, if you have a litmus paper, which is used in a chemistry lab to check if a mixture is a solid or a base, if it is an acid or a base, if you use this litmus paper, right, to let's say measure the height of a mountain, which can be done through maths, heights and distances, right? But if you try to measure the height of Mount Everest with a litmus paper, you might spend whole of your lifetime, but still not achieve at anything concrete, right? So the point is, to see something, there is a fixed process, and that process is very, very specific. Just like a process of physics cannot be applied to understand chemistry, a process of chemistry cannot be applied to understand maths. In the same way, a process of this material world cannot be used to understand that personality who is beyond this material world, who is in the spiritual realm. It is completely impossible. So then, what is the process to see God? And if we cannot see God, we cannot serve Him. So it is important for us to see God and realize His presence with us. And what is this process? This is explained by Lord Brahma in the Brahma Samhita, right? Where Lord Brahma says, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So he says that process is the process of love. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. So Anjana is eyes. When we anoint our eyes with love of God, that is when we can see God. But then, how do you develop love of God if you cannot see Him? Right? You need love of God to see God, but how do you develop love of God without seeing God? And for that, the Shastras explain Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 8th chapter, 5th shloka. It says, Pravishta Karnarandrena Haha Bhava Saroruham Dhunoti Samalam Krishna Shalilasya Yatasharet. So it says, Pravishta Karnarandrena Swanam Bhava Saroruham. Krishna enters, Pravishta, he enters through Karnarandrena, through our ear holes. He does not enter through our eyes, our touch, our mind, intelligence. No. Krishna enters through our ears when we hear Krishna Katha. And then he cleans our heart. Dunoti Samalam Krishna. He cleans our heart of all the impurities. On similar lines, Bhagavatam says in 1.2.17, शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तना हृदयन्तस्तु ह्यभद्राणि सुतुनोति सुहृत्सताम्. So he says, Bhagavatam says, Shrinvatam Swatkata Krishna. When a conditioned soul hears about Krishna Katha, then Krishna enters our heart through our ear holes, and then what does he do? He Hridayantastu hi abhadrani. All the abhadras, anarthas in our heart, he cleans them. He personally cleans them. Why does he clean them? Because vidinoti suhrut satam. Because he is a friend. He is a well-wisher. Right? So what if he is a well-wisher? Uh, See, if some stranger comes to our house, they suddenly knock our house and they come inside and they see the whole house is dirty, right? So then what do? They sit comfortably and you say that, no, this is not neat. Please forgive us. No, they'll say, no, 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 it's fine. This is understandable. All our houses are like this. COVID time, who is going to come? It's okay. But these same people, when they go out, they will go to the neighbors and they will say, "Oh, this man is so dirty. He keeps his house so dirty. Don't go to his house." Right? This is what strangers do. But when our friend, when a dear friend of ours, they come home, what do? They see that there is dirt, and then you tell them, please sit, please make yourself comfortable, please ignore this mess. So what does that friend say? He says, "No, no, no, it cannot stay like this." He rolls up his sleeve and he will help you in cleaning the entire house. And then after going out, he will not talk about this dirt to anybody else. Right? So that is the difference between when a friend enters our house and when a stranger or an enemy enters our house. In the same way, when we hear the mundane sounds of this world, through the songs, materialistic songs and materialistic speeches and lectures and all of that, that is like the stranger entering our heart, Maya Devi entering our heart, who will say, it is fine to have anarthas. It is perfectly fine to be imperfect. It's okay. Don't worry. You don't have to do anything. Right? But then they will only cause harm to us. Right? But when we hear Krishna Katha, then Krishna, our only well-wisher, enters our heart and cleans our heart. And when our heart is cleaned, we develop love for Krishna. And with that love, we can see the presence of Krishna in every step of our life. Right? So in the same way, Rukmini Devi did not see Krishna through her eyes, she saw Krishna through her ears. Prahlad Maharaj was in the womb of his mother. He never saw his guru. He never saw Krishna. He never saw Narsimhadev. But he was Bhakta Shiromani Prahlad Maharaj. How? Because he heard Krishna Katha from the lips of a pure devotee, Narada Mahamuni. And he saw Krishna, he saw Guru, he saw devotees from his ears. And that is the perfect way for spiritual realization, where you hear about Krishna and then you develop love for Krishna. Right? And Rukmini Devi did this. Right? And when Rukmini Devi developed this desire, I'll just check the time again, just so that we don't run out of time. Yeah, I think it was paused. I'm not sure, but it shows we still have 5 more minutes. So, when Rukmini Devi developed this desire to be wife of the Lord, then King Bhishmaka, her father, was very happy. All the relatives were very happy, and they thought Krishna is a perfect match for Rukmini Devi, right? But then there was one villain, one thorn in the bush, and this was Rukmi. He was extremely envious of Krishna, and he had a very close friendship with Shishupal, right? Shishupal, who was again extremely envious of the Lord, right? And Rukmi, the eldest brother, was hell bent on giving his sister's hand to Shishupal and not to Krishna. And somehow or the other, Rukmi convinced his father that Rukmini should be married to Shishupal only. And King Bhishmaka, out of love for his son, agreed also. He gave the hand in marriage. He agreed to give his daughter's hand in marriage to Shishupal. Right? And now, when Rukmini Devi heard this, her heart was shattered. And out of intense pain and having nothing, no other option, Rukmini Devi wrote the first, transcendental love letter to Sri Krishna, where she poured her heart out in 7 prayers. Right now, this is very important. You hear about Katha, you hear Krishna Katha, you develop love, but it is very important to offer prayers to Krishna. share your heart with Krishna. This is very important. Even in this material world, if there is a criminal who is going to be hanged, the Supreme Court has given him, the highest court in the land of India has given him the order to be hanged, right? But still, if that criminal writes a petition, a mercy plea to the president of this country, then under Article 72 of the Indian Constitution, the president has the power to reduce the punishment from hanging to life imprisonment. That punishment can be reduced. The punishment of hanging can be removed if the criminal writes a letter to the president. In the similar way, all of us, we are all going to be hanged very soon by this material world, by the Maya, right? And the president, the controller of this material world, Jagannath, the master of this material world is Sri Krishna. And when we offer our prayers to Krishna, offer our prayers for protection to Sri Krishna, and Krishna will ensure that we will come out of this punishment, of this hanging, of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. So writing prayers is very important. And how should these prayers be? It should not be crocodile tears, right? Like if a small baby wants a toy, right? It wants a toy to play with. So this baby will keep on crying, all crocodile tears. The moment the toy is given, that's it. Everything is gone, right? So it is only sound. There is no feeling in that cry, right? Krishna does not want that, right? But on the other hand, if a baby wants her mother, and the baby is crying for her mother, then it will keep on crying no matter what you give that baby. You give that baby a toy, you give it money, you give it food, whatever you give him sweets, chocolate, whatever you give, the baby will keep on crying. And when the mother who's working in the kitchen sees that, okay, this baby does not want anything except me, then the mother leaves all her work and runs towards that baby and picks her up, right? So this is the kind of cry that pure devotees have for Krishna. And if we want Krishna to appear in our lives, now Janmashtami is not just Krishna appearing in the life of Vasudeva and Devaki. If we want Janmashtami in our life also, Krishna to appear in our life, then our prayers must be pure and unalloyed, right? So when Rukmini Devi wrote these prayers, she sent these prayers in the hands of a Brahmana to Dwaraka. This Brahmana went to Dwaraka with that letter, with that confidential letter. When he reached Dwaraka, Krishna welcomed this Brahmana, got down from his throne, kept the Brahmana on the throne, washed his feet, took the remnants of that water on his head and drank that water. Right? Why did he do all of this? Because Krishna's pranam mantra says, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaddataya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. He is Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, and he is Brahmanya Deva. He is the Lord of all the Brahmanas, and he is the well-wisher of cows and Brahmanas. Brahmanas are very, very dear to him. So that person, that supreme personality who is Swarat, who is supremely independent, uses his independence, uses his free will to be dependent on the love and happiness of the Brahmanas and his devotees. Right? So when Krishna welcomed the Brahmana in such nice way and he asked him, how can I help you? Why have you come here? What do you need from me? And the Brahmana says, this is the confidential letter given by Vidarbhini, or the daughter of Vidarbha, King Vidarbhadesh, right? Rukmini Devi. Please take this, and this is an urgent situation. Please read it and do what you have to do. Krishna said, if Rukmini Devi trusts you with this letter, I also trust you. You only read it, right? I don't have to read it. This again shows that if we gain the trust of the devotees of the Lord, we also gain the trust of Krishna, of God. Right? So when Brahmana read these 7 letters where Rukmini Devi was asking Krishna to come and kidnap her so that she cannot be married to Shishupal, immediately Krishna took action. Right? He called Daruka, his chariot driver, and he said, make our horses ready, make the chariot ready. We are going to Vidarbhadesh. Right? And overnight, Krishna took the Brahmana and on his chariot, he drove from Dwaraka to Vidarbha Desh, Kundinapur, which is in present day Maharashtra. Right? And then, on the other hand, what is happening with Rukmini Devi? She got up, right? And she got up, she got dressed. She was dressed with new clothes and a lot of garments, jewels, ornaments, and all of these, right? And Rukmini Devi was made ready as a bride. And then a lot of Brahmanas came and they offered prayers. They chanted the Vedic mantras for her protection. Right? All of this happened. And then Rukmini Devi came out to take darshan of Bhavani Ma in the Ambika temple. She came out protected by a lot of soldiers and all her mother and her all the queens and the servants. Right, with all of them, she went to Bhavani Mandir. Right, and then Shishupal was ready. He was waiting there. Shishupal had not come alone. Alone, he had come with all his friends. Dantavakra, Jarasandha, Pundrika, and all of his other envious friends, right? All of same category. They all were waiting there, right? So that Rukmini Devi can have darshan of Bhavani Mata and she can come and Shishupal can marry her. And they were all waiting there so that if Krishna comes to kidnap Rukmini Devi, we will ensure Shishupal gets Rukmini Devi, right? So I think we are running out of time. So we'll move ahead to the conclusion right now. So anyway, when Rukmini Devi, before she left to Ambika Ma's temple, right, she was sleeping on her bed. It was night, and she realized that at the end of the night, I will have to be married to Shishupal, and there is no news of Krishna, there is no news of Brahmana, so there's no way, I have no hope. And when she realized this, she had tears in her eyes. But through that tears, she saw that the Brahmana was coming towards her into her chamber, right? And she saw that Brahmana, and she saw that this Brahmana was happy, was very rejoiced, and in her heart she knew what news this Brahmana had. But still, she asked him, what happened? Did you reach Dwaraka? Did you give my message to Krishna? What did Krishna say? The Dwaraka assured her that not just did I reach Dwaraka, not just did I give your message to Krishna, it not just that Krishna heard your message, but don't worry, Queen. Krishna is present outside our kingdom at this moment to take you with him to Dwaraka and marry you. So then Rukmini Devi became satisfied, and then she set forth to Bhavani Mandir, to Ambika temple. And when she came out from the temple, just by looking at her, all the kings around they fell unconscious, looking at her beauty, unable to tolerate her beauty, right? And then when they all got up again, they came back to consciousness. Then Rukmini Devi, with Bhagavatam says, with the toenail of her left hand, the fingernail of her left hand, Rukmini Devi took away the strands of hair from her face, and in a corner, from the corner of her eyes, she looked at all the kings, right? And among them, she found Krishna. And Krishna, he came ahead in his chariot. He took Rukmini Devi's hand, he put her on the chariot, and Bhagavatam says, in front of thousands of most powerful Kshatriyas, Krishna slowly drove away. Right? Can you imagine the fearlessness of the Lord? And I'm not even making this up. Bhagavatam says, Krishna drove away slowly, just like a lion comes into the pack of wolf and takes away its rightful share of food and it goes back. Like that, Krishna came in the pack of envious, powerful kings. He took his share, which was Rukmini Devi, his heart, and he went away. So when he was going back, all the kings they became insulted and they started shooting arrows. They shot so many arrows at Krishna that it is said that the whole sky became dark. It covered the sun. There were so many arrows shot at Krishna. But then Balaram also had come there. When Balaram realized that all these kings are there to fight with Krishna, Balaram came with the entire Yadu army. He came there, he fought with all of them, he pushed them back, and then Krishna brought Rukmini Devi to Dwaraka, and the divine marriage of this couple happened. Right? So then, this is the pastime in brief, but then it's very important for us to understand how is it applicable to us, right? Many times we hear Krishna Katha and we imagine it to be theoretical. Right? Okay, you hear, you forget. Right? But Krishna Katha is not meant to be like that. Right? Just like if you're sitting in a Katha, you're sitting on a chair, and if I tell you that, oh, Prabhuji, there's a snake under your chair, will you say, oh, very nice, very well said, and will you continue to sit there? No, no, no. You will jump, you will run from there, right? Immediately you will take action. In the same way, in Krishna Katha, when we say that this material world is a place of misery, it is not just that after the Katha we go to the speaker and say, oh, this was an amazing class, right? We must appreciate the speakers, we must express our gratitude to them, right? All of that is good, but it should not stop with that, right? It is not only meant for appreciating the speaker and ending, forgetting, right? We must take action about it. and for that we should know how does it apply to us. So Srila Prabhupada in the Krishna book explains how the pastime of Rukmini Devi is applicable to all of us, right? So Rukmini Devi, like we discussed earlier, represents the conditioned soul who is trapped in this material world and who is eternally loving Shri Krishna. So Rukmini Devi represents a soul trapped in this world. Her father, King Bhishmakar, he represents the intelligence, that intelligence which wants to offer the soul to the Lord, to Shri Krishna. And then the five sons of Vishmakar, they represent the five senses, which are extremely, shaky, which are extremely uncontrollable. And all these five senses are headed by Rukmi, who represents the mind. The mind is always trying to take the soul and give it in the hands of anarthas, like envy, who is represented by Shishupal, right? Rukmi, who represents the mind, he is convincing our intelligence, who is represented by Bhishmaka, to give the soul of Rukmini and to take the soul of Rukmini away from Krishna. That is the function of the mind, which is represented by Rukmi. But then the lesson from this pastime is, even if the mind convinces your intelligence to offer you, to take you away from Krishna, even if the anarthas are ready to catch hold of you, even if there are thousands and millions of powerful personalities who are supporting the mind, all the forces are in support of the mind, but still, if you just hear Krishna Katha, then Krishna will surely and personally come for you, and amongst all of this, he will hold your hand and take you back to his kingdom, where we can eternally serve the Lord. Right. So this is a very important lesson for all of us from this pastime. And I would encourage all of you to please continue hearing Krishna Katha throughout the whole day and immerse yourself in the nectar of Krishna consciousness. And once again, I would like to thank all the organizers and all the listeners for giving me this opportunity to serve all of you. And I beg all of you to kindly pray for me so that I can also practice the principles which we just discussed now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। कृष्ण जन्माष्टमी महामहोत्सव की जय। निताय गौर सीतानाथ प्रेमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल।